Hey everyone, I'm back with yet another video filled with details about Metaphor ReFantazio. This one will include some things I didn't have time to fit into my last video, along with some great insights mentioned by my viewers in the comments. However, the bulk of this video will cover a slew of press photos that were released shortly after the live stream a few weeks ago that depict quite a few new details that haven't been touched on anywhere to my knowledge. Also, before I begin, I just wanted to mention that if you're new to Metaphor ReFantazio, I highly recommend you first go check out other articles and videos that cover the general basics of the game. This video is more for people who've been following the game closely over the past 6 months. You can go back and watch my previous videos, or check out the articles on rpgsite.net that I've linked to in the description. So, let's begin. After looking through all of the footage released so far, I've discovered some peculiar details regarding the calendar used in the Kingdom of Euchronia. Astute viewers would have already noticed that their days of the week don't quite follow our normal Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that we use. After comparing all of the dates shown, I've discovered that they only have 5 days in a week, rather than the 7 like us. Those days are Flames Day, Waters Day, Arbor's Day, Metal's Day, and Idol's Day. Now, I can't tell from the footage which day marks the beginning of a week, but I have been able to confirm that this is indeed the correct order the days follow. If they're months, which do have the same names as ours, you can see here the month of July mentioned, if their months have the same number of days as ours, then Euchronia's calendar probably looks something like this. In the second livestream, I spotted an enemy character named Zorba being mentioned. I think I can now say with some certainty that the necromancer we saw in the last trailer is most likely Zorba. For one, many of the new screenshots I'll show you shortly have the current mission objective being thwart the necromancer's schemes. This is the same language used in the original screenshot I saw that mentioned Zorba. Also, all of the screenshots that say to thwart the necromancer take place when trying to reach the roof of the Regolith Grand Cathedral, which is where we saw the necromancer battle taking place in the trailer. When Zorba was first mentioned, the party was on their way to the roof of the cathedral. Also, it was pointed out to me that the magic this character uses has a very thorn-like appearance that matches the magic being used to curse the prince. What's more, I noticed that this necromancer has the image of a rose on his clothing. When you put all this together, it paints a picture that this character is most likely named Zorba, and that they may be somewhat or completely responsible for the prince's curse, which is the whole reason the protagonist is traveling to Gauntlet to begin with. Lastly, a viewer pointed out to me that Zorba here appears to be of a mixed bloodline. You can see he has a single horn on the side of his head, similar to that of the Claymar tribe, but he also has a third eye, like those of the Mustari tribe. Then there's this image from the first trailer that might also be of Zorba. If it is, it seems to depict him possibly having wings, similar to the Ishkia tribe, but I'll admit it's very hard to tell if this is actually the same character. Now, let's go over all of the press photos that were released. There's really quite a bit of new details to be shown here, something in almost every one. I've broken the photos down into groups based on where they take place. First up, we'll begin in Gauntlet. This first screenshot is of Sunlumio Street. The most interesting aspect of this and the following photos are the dates. As you can see, this was taken on the 16th day of the 6th month. This is only 14 days after the protagonist arrived, if the date shown here is true. This leads me to believe that all of the events, including the announcement of the King's Tournament and the eventual attack on the cathedral by Zorba, most likely take place all closer to the beginning of the game. In this screenshot, the protagonist is standing in front of a shop that sells igniters, which I surmise are the expensive tools that use Magla mentioned in the previous livestream. The shop name is Magla Igniter, like Cohen or something like that, and it has this symbol similar to a necklace or tiara. Gallica says, "This lady owns the igniter shop, right? I bet the pay would be decent. Might be worth taking the job if it's nothing too crazy." What's most interesting here is that the third dialogue choice requires at least level 2 in your wisdom stat under the royal virtues. This is similar to the social stat requirements in the Persona games, but here they've added the quality of life feature of indicating up front what stats you must have before you attempt specific dialogue options. By the way, these 4K screenshots are absolutely stunning. Just look at the amount of detail in Gallica's character portrait here. Here we see the map of Sun Lumio Street, and there are some red icons indicating places where you can spend money. On the left is St. Firmus Church, and on the right, the Igniter shop we were just at. There's also this icon that appears to be a crystal ball, possibly indicating a seer where you can have your fortune read. There was a similar seer seen here in Martira, and they have the same icon. The map changes to show the inside of the Gauntlet Runner, meaning we must have access to it at the point this screenshot was taken. The only really notable thing here is that you can see that the inside of the runner only consists of the 2 floors we saw previously. Next, we move to Sunshade Row, and we see someone covering up some bodies. He says, "They're still as corpses. No coming back from that." So, he's saying that they look like corpses, but aren't? Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but it makes me wonder if this NPC is implying that these people aren't actually dead, but just appear to be, kind of like the prince. Now we see the attack on the Grand Cathedral, of which a lot of footage from the last trailer showed. Here the party is in the reception chamber, on their way to find the lift. Again, the current objective is to thwart the Necromancer's schemes. The party makes their way into the servants' chambers where they encounter undead skeletons. The new objective is to head upward. You can see the bodies of dead soldiers strewn about the ground and some kind of red sack in the background. I have no idea what this is, although it could be related to the rose-like magic used by the Necromancer. In the Royal Portrait Hall, the party encounters this new human called Homo Fulquillo, another monster pulled directly from the works of Hieronymus Bosch, this time from his painting St. John the Evangelist on Patmos. By the way, remember that fish human I mentioned in my last video? I found him. He's in Bosch's work, the Highwain Triptych. Anyway, the objective here has been changed to now be head to the top floor. After some hits, the party decides to take on this human and initiates a squad battle. Stroll says, "They're down! Let's press our advantage!" This finally leads into this screenshot of the battle itself, and I'll note that our party consists of the same characters we saw in this shot from the first trailer, so it's likely this scene takes place shortly before or after the battle with Zorba. This screenshot appears to be of the party first arriving in the city of Martira. You can see the castle high up on the hill in the background. It's likely that this is Krigante Castle, as was seen in the latest trailer. You'll also notice that Nuras has joined the party, but Heisme hasn't yet. Here in Thoroughfare Square, we can overhear someone saying, "This place used to be a busy little hubbub, but thanks to all the crimes, it's turned into this." The new mission says, "The hunt begins," possibly for Heisme, and the current objective is, "Prepare for the sand flash." I wonder if a sand flash is a type of sandstorm. The date shown here is at least 2 weeks after the events of Grantrad. Walking up to this gloomy youth, we are presented with a side quest. He says, "Oh, thank you kindly. In that case, I'd like you to go buy 1 practical pigeon parcel for me. I'll need it by July 11th if you could." We can also see one of Martira's green-clad guards standing nearby. This screenshot shows the quest screen, and there are a couple of interesting details. First, it appears the quests come in 3 types: bounties, favors, and searches. Also, if you look closely to the background here, you can see the party is standing by a graveyard, and the man from the academia room is also standing nearby. The next screenshot shows Actus's workshop in Martira, where gear can be purchased. There's not much new to be gleaned here that wasn't in the trailer, except again, we're still preparing for the sand flash. The next screenshot shows the items available, and this time it looks like we've gotten into good favor with Actus, since he's offering everything 30% off. We then get a screenshot of the protagonist in the Vista Alba Tavern's guest room, where you can sleep for the night. Flash forward a few days, and this screenshot shows the protagonist in the tavern's main room about to speak with an informant called Informed Man. Another interesting detail is that there is a bard playing music in the background. This musical note icon most likely means that you can interact with him. It's possible he'll play you a song, or perhaps it's an opportunity to collect a piece of music. The informant offers information on Gigante Castle, which again, I speculate is the castle that overlooks the city. It says, "There have been rumors of a monster within the castle grounds." Also interesting is that it appears you can purchase more general knowledge from the informants. You can learn about village trading in Martira, information about inclement weather, possibly explaining the sand flash, or maybe it's about how weather affects dungeons, and even what types of food ingredients can be found in the city. This screenshot also reveals the informant's name, Falcone. Lastly, there's this screenshot of the party sitting down and eating, which is the same scene that was shown in the trailer. The protagonist thinks, "It tastes fine, but I'm afraid to swallow it." What they're eating appears to be a giant sandworm larva, which is supposedly a delicacy in the city of Martira. You can see some of the city guards standing at the head of the table. This screenshot of the Gauntlet runners shows Neuros chilling comfortably in the cockpit, while the current mission objective says, "Build strength for the Sanctus Proclamation." Here we see what happens when you decide to check status and converse with the party in the runner's war room. Strahl says,
"So, summing up, our first trial is to slay a monster.
We take its head as proof, then get it to the goal line before the deadline. The bigger the head, the better." Down in the lower decks of the runner, you can see the protagonist interacting with the washing machine. It appears using it will up your max MP. Notice also the musical note coming off of the character, indicating the increase, which is similar to the way the Persona games indicated stat increases. Lastly, in this screenshot of the runner, we're in the kitchen, and Hulkenberg is looking over a rather odd piece of meat. She says, "I have considered this topic for quite a while. Is it not true that meat tastes better when consumed by the mouthful, rather than via tiny, polite little bites?" Here are a couple photos I believe are in the Nord mines. The first shows the scene from the previous trailer of the party having to run across a bridge before it collapses. The Rohag party member is still with us, but this time his archetype is set to warrior. Gallica shouts, "The bridge is collapsing! Hurry!" Also, this screenshot shows the protagonist opening a chest and finding some loot. I think this is the first time we've seen the chest opening animation. This last batch of screenshots consists of all kinds of random things. The first shows the party's Gauntlet runner parked in Grandtrad. However, this is after the party has already visited Martira, since the date says July 5th, and the current mission has 12 days until the departure from Martira. The second is of the archetype tree. Notice that in the corner we can see that Strahl currently has only 5% repertoire with his warrior archetype. This appears to be a separate stat from the archetype's rank, which is 5 out of 20. Perhaps the more characters use certain archetypes, the higher the repertoire, and the more proficient they become. Back in June, this screenshot shows the Tradia Desert area from the beginning of the game, but this time we're out with the party exploring the Traveler's Graveyard, and there is only 2 days until the Sanctus announcement. This screenshot is in a place called Belaga Corridor. There are only 7 days remaining until the Day of Calamity, so this happens before the party fights Zorba. It appears the party is battling Goborns. We see here another part of the bonding scene with Katharina. Looking rather miffed, she says, "And you just helped a Parapus without expecting anything in return? Doesn't that just take the cake?" In this screenshot, we again see the party screen, but this time Strahl and Hulkenberg are set to be back in the formation, while the protagonist and Heisme are set to the front. Lastly, we see again this screenshot of the calendar advancing to the next day, except this time the text reads, time marches on and the age of a new king draws nearer. My take on this is that the deadline you're trying to avoid here is curing the prince before he is deemed no longer alive, as the curse he's under has kept him this way since childhood. Let's wrap up this video with a few extra details I spotted. In this shot from the previous trailer, you can make out that golden castle seen in the most recent trailer. This appears to confirm that the golden castle is indeed atop the giant face in the sky that represents the king's magic. This synthesis move shown in the trailer is called Rider of the Blade, as seen in this screenshot. It is available when the protagonist and Strahl work together. Other synthesis moves listed here include the previously shown Horse-Drawn Carriage and another called Adventurer's Curiosity. Surprisingly, a number of regular moves are also listed in the synthesis menu, such as Mataru Kaja, which raises the party's attack power, as well as the newly named wind moves, Gasaik and Gasaiklo. Finally, while it's possible to save when out exploring the world, it seems upon entering a dungeon the game will perform autosaves. This is a bit of a departure from the Persona series, which have typically required the user to remember to save frequently. Although there was a form of autosaving added to Persona 3 Reload in the ability to roll back a number of days within the same save. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to share it with others, and if you're new to my breakdowns, be sure to check out the Metaphor playlist on my YouTube channel. Thanks for the feedback, and thanks for watching.